I'll be damned. Oh, wow. Okay, I don't know what the fuck that means, but okay. I didn't want to scare you guys when I said that this world is ruled by the devil. If you want to be on the Lord's side, you're going to be on the rebellious side, which is going to be on a very, very much a probably the only group that's targeted legitimately. And it's going to be tough, and I don't think that a lot of people are going to make it, but there's a lot of tough people out there that still have some grit in them. But I don't want to get back into that because now we're in part two of the four parts that I wanted to talk about. That, you know, sunrise to sunset, man. There's nothing you can do to change any of these things. They happen whether like you like it or not. When you and I come and go, when you and I are gone and long forgotten, those sunrises will keep coming and going, and you and I will be forgotten forever. That's the facts of life, is that you and I, 20, 30, 40 years from now, if the civilization still exists, is that your name and my name will not live in infamy. There will be no history of us. We could even change the world, and 40, 50 years from now, no one will remember your name. No one will remember who you are. No one will remember what you've done. All you'll have is dust. Uh, Probably very likely you have been born again. But what is a generational curse? Now, if I look at the dictionary version of what does it mean, it means that every single person in the lineage of your family, as long as you go back, has had some sort of like a fucking financial setback. This is why they couldn't advance in life, because of this and this and this and this. And there are legitimate reasons not to do better in this world. What's up, bro? Hey, man. There are legitimate reasons why some people just don't get any better. Some people always stay the same. You go away for 10 fucking years, your friend probably working at the car wash. You come back 10 years later, the dude is still working at the car wash. So, it just depends on if you want an environment. See, every single thing that people are confused about children. I work with kids, I understand kids, and I understand how kids grow. Because I was a kid that was adopted, that was neglected, that was treated like dog shit, and then left for dead. So, hey, there's that. So I have an understanding of what it's like to be in the presence of a non-parent type of person. So now that I've been through all that personal fucking trauma and shit, and I've been through therapy and through parental training courses and shit like that, parenting courses, now I'm able to actually teach the classes on parenting, because especially the focus on kids, especially boys from ages 6 to 12 years old, need masculine examples in their life in order for them to develop psychologically. Because if a boy is with his mother from birth until 5 years old, they get the nurturing, basic things down that they learn as babies, because they're constantly dependent on their mother. At 6 years old, something changes physiologically in boys that makes them more curious, makes them want to just, tear shit apart, take your tools, and then try and figure out how a crescent wrench works and things like that. And boys need this in excessive amounts. We never knew this information before. We didn't know that when we grew up, especially kids that were born like 70s and 80s, like Gen X kids, like all we had was garage, outside, and then we got Atari early in the 80s, And then we got Nintendo. I believe it was the 80s. Yeah, it was the 80s. And so that's where, we went from working and playing and having fun with friends outside to being indoors with video games. And I think this is where they trained us to do one of two things. One of us is to fight wars digitally. Yeah, you guys didn't think about that move, did you? And that is to do things so that in the future we would be able to fight wars just like we are in this stupid simulation right now. It's not a stupid simulation, it's a great simulation. I couldn't fucking tell the difference. But my player one is doing awesome, by the way. Anyway, ha ha ha. The only way to win is not to play. What does that mean? Is that people in the general, people that aren't willing to do or lift a fucking finger to change their circumstances. Now, I have been fortunate enough to have a grandmother that was head of the literacy department for the Southern Baptist Convention. She was a very important lady to a lot of people, especially from the country of Vietnam. And my grandmother had helped to. Hey, you want to do me a favor, dog? Hold on a minute. Okay, so I was talking about the literacy program. My grandmother was the person in charge of the literacy program for this. She started this. No one asked her to do anything, but she had refugees coming from Vietnam during the Vietnam War who wanted to become American citizens. And so I know that you may have looked around. There aren't that many Asians that are homeless. And that's because they really support each other financially. They support each other because they're not going to allow a homeless person to be out there. They're not going to, you come in, you're going to work in somebody's family. And that is how it should be. And that's how I'm going to make sure that if in the event of some kind of cataclysmic situation, I'm there to at least help somebody to get some food and shelter and some water, and they'll find their purpose in life and so on. Because if things go sideways, which I think people tend to forget that we've had several resets, we've had several meltdowns. The United States hasn't had anything bad happen that has affected the citizens as far as like being dips and shit holding people up. Now we're in a position where the whole fucking world is going to be against the United States. The dollar is probably going to collapse. I'm totally black-pilled on this thing. And if you forgive me, I am a damn nihilist about it. And there's good reason to be nihilistic about what we're seeing right now. However, nihilists don't always have. We're negative to the end. We're negative about the possibility of a recovery because we have seen too many civilizations come and go. We're the old souls that keep getting recycled. We're looking down upon all the fucking human beings right now and what they're doing on social media and acting like retards. The reason why they gave us Nintendos and Ataris was to condition boys to be distracted for certain periods of time. The reason why things like Cornhub and Xbox Live are in existence is to distract boys from living life on the outside world. What has done is created a small percentage of men who have the access to 90% of the women. The beautiful women, they only go for this one type of guy. And the rest of us, that don't have lots of money or not super tall or things like that, we have to rely on our abilities to provide value in other ways. So I'm a firefighter. That's kind of a gimme. You don't. It's not hard to, whip up a firefighter. Period. And paramedics too. And unfortunately, a lot of people get hitched up with the wrong kind of girls and the wrong kind of guys. But that's not why we have generational curses. We have generational curses because, first of all, we used to assume that our parents were smart. Tell me I'm wrong. Did you not assume that your mother and your father and your grandparents were wise in their years? And then you come to find out later on they were all ignorant as hell. That is true. Also, if you want to go back further to every generation before it, there was a spike in the 1940s due to the influence of some sort of intelligence that boosted certain groups with recycled technology that existed prior to any wars and to any United States or anything else. So we're all using recycled technology. Nothing is new under the sun. Nothing has been invented new. Okay, it has been repackaged. It has stickers on it. It has a new design, but it's the same thing. So there's nothing new under the sun. Women have not changed. Women have evolved, and they go through cycles like this, and they are the weaker sex. They're more emotional, so they're easier to manipulate as far as from a psychological aspect to do any kind of brainwashing or hypnotism. I know so because my friend had oral surgery, and I am sort of having fun with this hypnotism thing that I was trying. And he was like being tortured because we're in Colombia, and the dentist that we went to didn't have one of her devices didn't work. That was like the pressure cleaner, so she could scale his teeth. But she ended up scaling him with the old school instruments and so on. While doing that, I had to hypnotize him so he didn't feel any pain at all. I didn't think the stuff worked, but sure as shit, I talked him through it. But the fucking thing that happened was I ended up putting the dentist to sleep standing up. I was amazed. Actually, my friend was more amazed because he was giggling because his eyes were closed. He didn't feel anything at that point, and she was falling asleep behind the wheel. So I don't know. Maybe we'll try that someday. If you guys want to try to do some hypnotism, I think it would be kind of fun. I don't know what theme. I don't know. Pull a rabbit out of a hat or something. But all it is Jedi mind tricks. That's all these are. Just Jedi mind tricks that can be done. And that's how they trick us. That's how they fool people. They do this thing with binaural beats. If you guys don't know what that is, okay, both hemispheres of the brain produce a frequency. And if you can confuse that frequency or cause a hallucination to happen in between the two hemispheres, you can get a lot of benefits out of it for studying or if you have problems with sleep. So there's all these good benefits, but then these things can be used for evil. That is, that if you were to like find the frequency that makes the mind feel like it has seasickness and the world is turning fucking sideways. Okay, well, that's a frequency that some people get when they're enclosed on a boat, and it causes nausea. Well, there's also a frequency that can be reproduced, and that's used as a weapon, and it's been around since probably the 40s, but having had accessible to civilians and stuff like that, the 1970s, the 1980s, when people were starting to get into electronics and stereos and stuff. And it all came from Japan. So none of this stuff is new. None of this stuff is top secret. So anybody trying to tell you, oh, this is for frequency weapons that make people throw up and fall down, been around for a long, long time. It's not new. Nothing controversial about it. It's a frequency weapon that makes you get headaches really bad, makes you fall down and get dizzy and throw up. Or I guess you get dizzy and then you fall down and you throw up. Or if you try to fight it, it makes you feel like you did 20 games of dizzy bat. Remember that game where you're spinning around like that? That's what makes you feel like vertigo. That's what it is. It gives you vertigo. It's like a vertigo frequency or some shit. And I understand it's fucking horrible. But let's talk about this, kids. If you're trying to break generational curses, you have to first look at the people who are saying this. Cursed by what? In what way is shit going so badly for those family members that they feel like they're under a curse? Is it they don't get ahead? Is it because everything they try to start, nothing fucking works, so they give up? Explain to me exactly what curses in 2024 do people actually fucking have when we're in the freest time that we've ever been, in the richest, even though this shit's right now is fucked up, in the richest era of any generation ever, with more access to medical information at the touch of our hand. Did you know that babies used to die almost 50% of the time at childbirth? And it took one person to get this bright idea to wash their fucking hands before they deliver a baby. And those deaths when babies were being born suddenly dropped off immensely. So some guy said, hey, you know what? I got an idea. Why don't we wear gloves? And they'll be antimicrobial. And that way we don't pass any germs on to the infant when it's being born. And that way we don't have any worries whatsoever. We were so primitive for so long. It makes you wonder, how is it possible that generation upon generation upon generation didn't learn from the last generation and made the same stupid mistakes? Getting married too early, not getting married and having children instead. Instead of having a family, they went to college to earn a useless degree and then have a lot of student debt left over. That doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, I left the United States in 1992, and I didn't have any intention of coming back. But when I had to out process, I fell into the trap of saying, hey, you know what? I think everyone's going to be proud of me because, I went to the war twice. I should be like, get an old pat on the back, because back then I was concerned of what people thought about me. I felt like I needed some kind of validation for going off to war. So fucking young and, coming back and not dead. And when I came back, instead of me being like waited for at the airport with a nice big happy family of fucking balloons and shit that you would assume that combat veterans would get. But instead, I was met with fucking, hey, yeah, man, I just got back from the war and I want to talk about it because I don't feel too good. Oh, yeah, that's great, man. Let me tell you about my fucking bowling score. So you see what I'm saying? That people don't give a shit about veterans. And we come back from the war all banged up and fucked up in the head. And they assume that, see, this is the bad thing about any kind of like disability or chronic disease or anything that we got from the military, or any kind of brain damage from getting hit, or, vehicles alone. Hit me in the fucking head. One guy died. There's so much shit that happened physically, mentally, spiritually to a lot of us. A lot of us got divorced. You know what I mean? Some of us had like insufferable. I still have insomnia, even to this day. And I haven't found a cure to insomnia. I found something that helps nightmares, you guys. If you didn't know, okay? There are certain things, if you have PTSD, that you can take and you could drink a tea every single day. And it's like microdoses of several like herbs and stuff. And man, it all of a sudden it took the edge off. And I was like, dude, what is in this tea? It's delicious, first of all. And I don't drink alcohol. I've been sober for 21 years now. Gonna be sober 22 years on the 19th of March, God willing. Anyway, so the guy that I go to these retreats at sweat lodges, and one of my friends came from the States. And he's like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm really going to go after it. I'm really happy about this. The guy lost like 50 kilos, which is a little over 126 pounds. And that's a lot of weight. That's like a person to lose. And he did it in, less than 2 years. So I'm really proud of him. But to do a lot of this stuff, you need psychological help. And you feel like, oh, my mom is fat, my dad is fat, my grandpa's fat, my uncles were all fat. My aunts are fat. My one aunt is so fat in a wheelchair fat. And how is it possible that I'm the only one in this entire family that does not carry the generational curse of being fat as fuck? And I mean fat as in 400 pounds plus. And if you were to sit down and eat with certain people that are over 400 pounds, that have access to so ungodly amounts of food that you would literally get sick if you were to try and keep up with them. And we're talking about obese people that are over 60% body fat that have no chance whatsoever of recovering from that. So I'm talking excessively fat. So how is it possible that for me to jump over a generational curse that affects almost every single person genetically? Well, because it has to do with environment. See, going back to what I said about learning about people by learning about children. Children learn accents from school. When they go to school, they don't learn language from other kids. They learn language from other kids, not from the teachers and not from the parents. More than 80% of the kids in school, there's about 70 or 75, 74% of kids that have no internal dialogue. Wrap your head around that. So knowing that, kids that 74% or 76, I don't remember, but look it up yourself. Look up a study that was done that says that 70 or 74% of people have no internal dialogue. And I was really not terribly surprised by that, by knowing how many dumb people in the world there are that surprise us at how incredibly dumb they are. Listen, they're just NPCs. Hey, if God wanted to install actors and do all that shit, he's going to do it. Who the hell knows? I don't know. Do you know? Nobody knows. But go with it. So NPCs are there to annoy us, to fill in the blanks, to interact with us, just like that. Just to interact with us. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's terrible. And a lot of times your family members that are supposedly in this generational curse are NPCs themselves. They're actually not very productive people. They haven't done anything or accomplished anything in life because that's not their purpose in life. In fact, their purpose in life is to, as their job in the theater, if you will. If they were actors in the theater, they would be the people who are the gossipers who talk behind your back, who are talking, through each other's windows or over each other's fence about this person or that person. So they're the gossipers. And we know they're the gossipers, so we know we don't take the motherfuckers seriously. Why should we take people seriously who disrespect us? Do not argue with them, because they'll pull you down to their level and they'll beat you with experience and being a lowlife. So do not argue, first of all, with women. And I learned this lesson a ways back from a guy that at one point you and I would say we were similar in one way and different than other. And his name, well, his handle on YouTube is Alpha Male Strategies. And Alpha Male Strategies and I were exchanging emails a long time ago before he wrote his book. And I was going through a breakup where I had discovered there was some paternity fraud that had happened against me. And for 18 or 19 years of child support, I'm sitting here wondering if that kid is mine or not. And come find out that after, 22 years, he finally reaches out to me. And he says that his mother didn't chase me off, and he didn't do that, and she didn't do this, and she didn't do that, but you did this, and you did this, and you did that. And I'm like, yeah, this is all stuff that happened before you were born. And the guy's combative with me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, no. I don't think you quite understand. I am going through a generational curse. And the generational curse is I left my kid in Germany because I don't like his mother, and maybe she makes me mad and I want to leave. So I go to the United States. And so I left because I'm not going to fight with the lady. She's going to send the Russians for to kill me and all this scheiße. Anyway, so she sent people to fuck with me. And so I have no way of confirming whether or not this kid is mine or not. And she identified the kid that she had with the man, supposedly she was married to before, whose name is Gerald Swigert from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And he's a good dude, and he was in the Army. Nice guy. Unfortunately, he was lied to, and he was married to this chick, and they divorced. And he went to the States, and he had to pay child support, and he was behind on his child support, and lost his license, and lost his job a few times. And he didn't know up until the time this kid was probably 22, 23, 24 years old, that the kid wasn't even his because she admitted to cheating on him with his best friend whose name was Mike. It was another black guy. By the way, these are all black guys. They're all dudes that were at Kleber Concern, Panzer Concern, all that were there from the Army, the U.S. Army, right there in the 90s, you know what I'm saying? That was the time to be, black in Germany. Because in the 90s, we didn't have racism like you're having in the States now. You know what I'm saying? We had friends, and it was like we were okay with each other. We weren't like pandering to each other or anything. We were friends, like legit, like admiration for each other as military members. How do I put it any better than that? And that is why my mindset has never defaulted to, thinking that a black person is better or worse than me in any way. As a matter of fact, if there's anything that a black person is better at me then I want to know how to do that too. Whatever you're good at, I want to learn how to do that. And I know that my physicality might not let me jump, and I don't like basketball, but you might be able to write code. I want to learn how to program Arduinos. And if you're good at doing something cool, like maybe setting up like interfaces or whatever, like this one guy, and I don't want to talk about him or set his name out because he doesn't quite deserve me to shout him out. But this guy had a problem with another YouTuber. And I took it personally because this guy he says that he was in a generational curse and that his mother was masculine and his father didn't exist and all this stuff. And he was making threats at people on the street. Like, what are you looking at? Yeah, come back here, bitch. So he's doing what he was programmed by his uncle. He watched his uncle acting up in public. So he saw that as fucking masculine cool. So that's what these guys are doing, is they're seeing their masculine uncles, acting up and being a fucking thug and acting like a dickhead in public and thinking that that's cool and that's all right to do. And what happens is that perpetuates somebody who doesn't realize that they're not doing something that's actually productive for society, and it's not going to make them better as a person. It's going to make them worse as a person. How better? I mean, it's like getting a neck facial tattoo. And no offense to anybody who's got one, but what a way to make yourself less employable in an ever shrinking job market where one wants to make top dollar in everything they do. But imagine somebody comes in your office and they got a fucking face tattoo, like Lee Priest or something. You better fucking be Lee Priest if you're going to have a face tattoo and come and apply here. Now, I do have to give you guys that have tattoos the benefit of the doubt. Because in certain countries, tattoos mean certain things. And some of you guys do them for fashion, but I know none of you guys are fucking Indians. None of you guys are Japanese. None of you guys are, Samoan or anything. So let's get right to the chase. You did it for fashion. You wanted to show off, which is cool, I guess, at one time in your life. But you're 45 and you got the fucking tramp stamp on the top of your ass that you got in 1994 when Linkin Park was playing. And you wanted to make sure you wore the fucking jeans just in case, he saw you from the fucking stage and he'd pull you up there and you'd be famous for your butthole. So those are things to think about that, escape us. That getting tattoos can be detrimental to you as far as like employment and making money. So you basically perpetuate your own chances that you fuck up because of your choices. And it's nobody's fault but your own, because you're mechanized to believe that, well, I don't need to fall in line. I could be different. Well, yeah, you cannot be different. No, you must be the same. You must not have, tattoos on your fingers and on your hands and, show up to the fire department and say, yo, I want to fucking fill out a job application. Because some fire departments don't allow tattoos on the arms to be visible. I don't give a shit what you do. Tattoo your face, I'm concerned. I don't give a shit where you're from. You could be from Mars as far as I'm concerned. But the point is that people's perception of you is reality. And there's one guy that's a great boxer. This kid, I feel for him because he's selling door to door. You know, he's selling like Jello and shit like that, and he's making very little. But I admire him because he does it every day. That reinforces that I need to get my ass out of bed, go to training every day. It's at 10 o'clock. It's not that fucking early. It's not that hard. It's in the sun, but whatever. Fuck yourself. I can do it. And you regenerate every year. So how and when do you want to start regenerating? Because if your generational curse is that you're fat and you don't go to the gym, then you know what? You're the problem. Okay? If people don't treat your grandfather good, you want to find out why. It isn't because he was black. It's because he protested with a bunch of white liberals that didn't have his best interest at heart. And he got in trouble and he went to jail. And your grandmother talked about how masculine your grandpa was to your grandma and to your mom. So when she had you, she had this heroic idea about being a protester and being around, white liberals as being a good thing for the community. But it's not. You come to find out they just use people as props. So really, the people that are being busted right now for plagiarism and for, these are people that are in power, like a judge that was asked what the simple definition of a certain law was that is, freshman fucking judiciary. And she couldn't say it. Or a cop that was asked, do you know what the Miranda rights are? And literally could not tell the judge what the Miranda rights were. She didn't know what the fucking word was. And it was a cop, not just any cop, a supervisor cop. The guy in trouble, doesn't know the law, pretended to know the law, and then got busted not knowing the law. Then all the records come out that every single one of these people was cheating on the test, and they had an answer key. So no one was really learning anything. And they wonder why they have a generational curse. Because they're part of the fucking problem. So anybody in your family that insists that your family sucks and you got a generational problem, you know what? The problem might just be, there's a generational problem. And if a generational problem really is a repetitive cycle of what a certain person does, or a certain person's father does, or his grandfather, then maybe look at the causes and conditions of why those people are like that. Not by saying, oh, genetically, he's a womanizer. That's bullshit. There's womanizers that exist that I have met in Colombia who also went to his funeral, also employed all of his daughters that were within reason. And he was in Choco, Colombia. I found out that this man had fathered children in one barrio. With, wait for it, 70 women. 70 women went with this man and had children. And I admire this guy because he did not give two fucks at all. He loved his kids. Everybody knew what was up. This guy was the fucking Rolling Stone, but he stayed in the barrio and he saw his kids, and then he was a womanizer. So he went and he probably paid for people's houses and stuff. And in Colombia, it's very cheap. And most of these kids were probably in their 30s. So if they grew up in the 80s, something like that, their house might have cost $100 a month. So really, you got no losses there. But this guy had 70 women. Now, how many children do you think this man had? He had over 300 children in this one town with 70 fucking women. he had the sauce, and you know what? They probably smelled it on him. So, how did he break the generational curse? He broke the generational curse by saying, I'm not going to lie to these girls. I'm going to be a womanizer, and I'm going to be straight up about it. If they want to get on this jock, and if they're not willing to pay 100% of all the bills, then you're not going to waste your time. I'm sorry. And if that's the case, you can hit the bricks, because, I mean, we're not going to be dating broke women. If you're not willing to at least, bring something to the table besides your looks, and I'm asking you, just to be realistic, because, who wants to go out with a broke woman? It's just the facts of life, guys. No one wants to be around somebody that's not wealthy. And if you're not mega rich, I don't see you being anything to brag about back home either. So, you know what I'm saying? So choose your battles carefully, because you're not that great. There's a lot of people who are better than you in fucking 50 million ways. Better father, better girlfriend, better boyfriend, better husband, better educator. Some people that I admire on the internet, I wish I was half the man those motherfuckers are. As far as education, as far as their discipline goes. They don't take steroids. I took steroids for years just to get big, just to lose it all again when I went off the steroids. You know what I'm saying? And not that makes me any better or worse. What it did do is created me a false sense of reality. I already had problems. And what that does is amplify the problems that you have. So if you got anxiety, you are fucking having night terrors. So beneficial depends on the one. Some are very, very bad for you. And I just want to tell you that if you feel like you can't really survive and you don't want to even work out without juice, then you might be the very, very beginning of the generational curse for your kids of your own. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is just be your authentic self. Tell everybody else that doesn't agree with you that you're sorry you feel that way. This way you don't insult them. And if they feel the need to try and talk over you, before you get mad, remember, give them 3 chances. All right, so any dumb fuck that I don't talk to anymore, it's because, I mean, what are they going to be doing? I'm not in their game. Well, we fucking, you know what I'm saying? I'm over here. This is it. This is where I am. And this is not fun for people to see when you're doing good. See, I have an academy that's for adults. Okay? We do not film the adults. Adults they're nothing but contractors working for the hospital or a dental clinic, whatever. And if they get first aid buddy care or something like that, here it's with an instructor that's Mexican, that has his own LLC, type of setup where he signs the certifications. So we're not responsible for certifying anybody for the state. So we're just facilitating a room. And do we get paid for it? No, we get nothing. We get nothing for facilitating a room that may be 10, 20 people for 2 days. What we get in exchange for letting them use one of our classrooms so that other people can get their first aid buddy care certifications for a corporation. Then when those people come through again, this time we're selling all the stuff that the corporation needs. Now we're doing inspections on fire extinguishers. Now we're doing inspections and we're doing clapper resets on fire, sprinkler systems. So maybe we're fixing leaks, replacing heads, resetting the clapper, middle of the fucking night. So we're talking about stuff that only people who are overly trained can do. And people who know how to do it don't make excuses. They just go in and they do their shit. Okay, we're moving into a different time and a different world once again. So I'm going to encourage you guys to be the best version of yourself so that you're stand up against other people. You're bar none the better version that your employers want, that the girls want, that the guys want, the best version of you. There's no faking muscles. You can get injections and all that stuff, but you can't fake strong. And you need to be real strong when it comes to saying no to your family. Because you're used to your auntie and your fucking mom and baby mom. Everybody's fucking single women in your life. And you don't know how to fucking even communicate. Because you've been raised by single women. And all the bad advice they've given you has gotten you fucking heartbroken. And then you became a simp. You don't want to be a simp. You know what I'm saying? And or simp enforcers, and those guys get shot. So I encourage you right away, recognize, realize, are you part of the problem by being, saying that you are? Are you part of that problem? If you're a part of the generational curse, you got to be the one that says, steps away. I left the country. And now they honk horns outside where I live because there are no fucking rules. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, I need you to actually hit the like button and share it. I'm the Professor, and I'm out.